Hello everyone, and welcome to my Creature Curations. Thank you. Today is Wednesday, November the 23rd. For everybody that is stateside, it's about a day away from Thanksgiving. I hope everyone is doing well today. On today's quest, I'm going to paint on this creature. He is kind of my take on the goblins that live in my fantasy world of Revelo. So I sculpted this on a previous session, so today I'm going to do some painting on him. Almost all the paints that I use are Reaper miniature bones paints. They pack a whole lot of punch in these little half-ounce bottles. And I am going to be painting it with a number 4 Golden Taklon, if I pronounce that right, Golden Taklon Trikel brush. It's a flat brush. I prefer using that. I'm going to smack it around as we get into painting. Feel free to hit me up with any questions that you have along the way, because I'm happy to share any knowledge that I have. And on today's episode, we are going to be listening to Midnight Syndicate, because I met one of the 2 members of that group at Gen Con, and then again at Dragon Con. And they're some really swell folks, so I want to make sure to I enjoy listening to this type of music while I sculpt and paint. So yeah. So first things first, I want his skin to have like a greenish color. I'm not sure exactly what I want. So I'm going to start out by using some Dungeon Slime green. I'm also going to bring in some Alien Flesh. I'll probably throw in some Moldy Skin, as well as some of this mint green. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to drop a little bit of this on my palette. Going to shake it up real good and just squirt a little bit down. I'll know I can always come back and add more, so I don't need to use too much at any one time. And I usually always keep the colors that I'm using off to the side, so that if I need to go back, I can definitely do that. Also, if it's something that I'm going to work on for like a long period of time, I'll take a photograph of the paints with the creature, so that I know, like, have a point of reference to go back to. But I guess this video would help as well if I wanted that. I like the kind of moldy skin, because I think that's going to mix in pretty well with some of the other colors to get kind of a nice, creepy, nasty color to it. And I kind of like this mint green as well. It's a color that I just ordered on my last batch of Reaper Mini colors. Thanks, Carrie. And I like that color, even though it's a little brighter. All right. So I'm just going to start painting around here. I'm going to put a fair amount of paint on my brush and just do a light smack over top of it, because if I don't put too much pressure on the brush, it'll allow the cracks and creases that I sculpted into it to still hold the black that I spray painted it, to allow those shadows to fill. So I'm going to grab just a little bit of this Dungeon Slime to start out with. So a little brighter and lighter than the other colors. And if the volume on the music is an issue, let me know. I had to change my camera setup a little bit from the last time, so things are adjusted just a little bit. And normally I do these Wednesday afternoon painting sessions so that I can jump back into my work day after my 2-hour session, but since today is the day before Thanksgiving, I don't know how much more work I will be getting done after this painting jam. But you can quickly start to lay down some color, and you'll see, because the sculpt is there, that it's starting to that it's already starting to pull out some of the textures. And I like the flat brushes for this, just because you can really start to get a lot of color down, and they seem to hold up pretty good considering how much detail and sculpt is in this piece. Because I can beat the hell out of some brushes and really make them wear out pretty quick, because it's so much different than working on like a canvas or a flat surface. Okay, I'm just going to bring some of this color all the way down, and this is going to need a couple of different coats as we go, because the black that I spray paint on it starts to suck up some of the lightness of the greens and the colors that I'm putting in, but that's totally okay. The main thing is once it's all done, I don't want it to look like there are a bunch of brush strokes on it. So that's why I'll go in and add multiple coats. Oh, gotta keep my head out of the way. Basically just gonna keep slapping the paint around, and we'll start to see the colors take shape. Now, this guy is kind of, like I was saying, is kind of like my goblin type race in my fantasy world of Revelo, where all my creatures live. I decided that this one in particular, so these creatures primarily live in a area of my world called the Valley of Despair. And in the valley, it is surrounded by a forest. And in that forest are mainly undead creatures that make it nearly impossible to navigate through the forest without being eaten. So this, of all the Groblyns, created a mechanism that was essentially like a giant drill that was powered by pulleys and gears that he made so it would drill underneath the forest so that they would have a way outside of the Valley of Despair. And they had lived there for generations without ever having any sort of escape since the undead creatures started taking over that forest. So because of that, he established some trade routes with some of the other areas in my world, and now some of these Groblyns actually live in the one city that's in my world, or it's almost like a western town, frontier town, that has other humanoid creatures like humans and dwarves and elves and stuff in it. So this guy in particular helped establish those paths and allow for these creatures to get out. Okay, so I'm just going ahead and I'm mixing the two of the brighter greens together and just kind of blending them as I go. And that was the dungeon slime and the alien flesh. Both pretty rockin' green colors. One of the things about using miniature paints on this as opposed to like your standard like normal like acrylics that we'd use on canvas, something about the opacity of these paints is really nice, and also they make so many really awesome colors that I don't have to spend a whole lot of time just mixing colors, and the names of them are fan-flippin-tastic as well. I'm gonna bring some of this brighter green over here. That alien flesh is a good one. Bring some of that in. Oh. And a little background, these kind of bubbly, boily things that are growing off the side of his head. So if anybody's watching that's doing anything exciting or special for Thanksgiving, if you're stateside, we will be going to my in-laws' house for lunch, and then having my sister and her family over for dinner. Nothing like doubling down on Thanksgiving meal festivities. Dropping a little more of this dungeon slime color down because I was running out on my palette. Might as well get a little more coffee as well. Alright. And just gonna keep dropping this stuff in and going over this pretty quick. I haven't decided exactly what I'm gonna do the clothes on this guy. Carrie and I had talked about possibly doing blues, like royal blue type colors on that. That might be an option. But you can definitely see like brush strokes in here. So I'm going to keep going over and doing a couple more layers and just blending stuff in. Just a few minutes after I get a little more on here and make sure that a lot of it's got these green colors covered, I'll see what happens when I add in that moldy flesh color. I mean, that is a great name for a paint. Moldy flesh. And just gonna smack some color into this ear. And keep going all the way around the top of this head. Alright. And just gonna keep going. Add more as we go. It's got a lot of area to cover for the green. But just laying down a whole lot of base like this, base coat, and then coming back and adding details will make it really easy to get a lot of coverage real quick. Like in the course of this 2-hour painting jam, we should be able to get so much of this guy painted up. Pardon me as I stand up to try and get better angles on the ears. Get behind those ears. I want to really make sure everything has a nice coating and I don't miss any of the nooks and crannies or anything. I'm just going to keep bringing this up. Make sure I got full coverage all the way around. Smackety, 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 smack. Nothing like the flat of these brushes to just smack color onto these pieces. And like, this was a brand new brush that I just started using today. This one, even though I've been using Restorer on it, is beat to hell. I mean, the autofocus is rough, but that one has seen better days. Gonna go ahead and I'm gonna need some more green. Both of the greens on my palette. But like I said, I like to use a little bit of a time at a time, not to waste too much. Do a little bit more, and we'll grab it up. I almost feel now like this creature should be in some sort of dark carnival. Okay, I'm gonna shake up my paints. Give them another shake. I'll spin this guy around a little bit so you see a little bit better while I'm doing this. Drop down some alien flesh. Drop down a little dungeon slime. That one's not flowing so good. I might need to poke a little hole. Every now and again, these things will get a little clogged up. You gotta just jam like a paper clip down in there to kind of unclog it a bit. All right. Let's get a little more on the back of this neck, cupping up in behind, in between where the ear meets this big old chunk right here. Just gonna keep on laying down the colors. It's fun seeing him start to come to life a little bit. I mean, when I was sculpting him, I could definitely see the personality starting to come through as to what he was going to be like. But when you start to add color, you really get a better feel for it. And I know that I gave him green eyes, and now I'm giving him green skin, so I'll probably do a darker color around the eyes just to make those pop off a little bit more. But we'll do that after everything else starts to blend in a bit. Shaky, shaky, shaky. Gotta get his mohawk fin taken care of. And keep jamming down on here. Got a little more on this ear to cover. And then we'll get a little more color in. And there we go. Get a little more inside the ear. Tilt them up a little bit. Sometimes you gotta get odd angles to make sure you get everywhere you want to be. I'm gonna get up under this part of the mohawk, under this ear. It's okay if I get a little on the earring. I'll just come back later, and that one's gonna be touched up with some like metal color. Get under here good. Make sure I'm not missing out on any of the spots under this way. I think we'll need to go ahead and do this on the other side too, just to make sure I'm getting some good coverage. That's good. Alright, let's flip this guy this way. One of the nice things, this magic sculpt that I use, and since it's on top of a styrofoam base, it's not super heavy. So I can lift it around and twist it and twirl it, and I'm not straining myself at all. Alright. Cool. I like how that's starting to come together. I'm going to rinse my brush off, and then I'm going to get all the water out of it. Like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pinch down on it and squeeze the water out, so that what I can do is I'm going to start pulling in that moldy skin color and start to see how that looks. What I'm going to first do is I'm going to bring it around the eyes, because it's a different color than the greenish yellow color that's in the eye itself, and I kind of want to see how it's going to work there. I may have to come back and add, I will have to come back and add more colors, but for now I just kind of want to see how it reacts. I think this is going to humanize it a little bit more, because it is more of a fleshy type color. Which I don't know if I like the idea of that or not, now that I'm starting to lay it in and see it. Okay, let's bring it into some of these bubbles. Bubble, bubble, bubble. It's gonna start looking like some moldy or some nasty old looking cauliflower or something. Choo choo! I don't know if you guys can hear the train when it blares its horn. It's nice and comforting on this side. Okay. It's just adding a little bit of lightness and slightly different coloration by bringing that on top of it. I think that's going to end up working out okay. Bring some of it in down here. I'll bring some into the ear. And then we'll probably, normally I like putting the darker colors on first and working my way up to light. But every now and again I jump in with these bright, like this bright green, just to see how it's going to work, and then have to go back and forth until I get it exactly how I want it. But I think incorporating this moldy skin color in here is going to be good. It's going to blend down pretty well. And I'll bring some of those greens, some of the brighter greens back in just a little bit. Put some of this just up around the tip of the ear. It's very subtle, but it's going to help add a lot of depth to this creature because of the how it's going to blend into the green a little bit. Oh, sorry for smacking the camera with my paintbrush. Especially if I start bringing a little bit of the two colors together while in the brush. Let's do a little of that right now with a little of both under here. And blend that down. And just work the paint out of the brush till it goes all the way over and completely blends itself out. Hey Jonesy, what's happening? I assume this is Greg? Ha! Yes, sorry, it's a little bit of a delay, but I knew it was you. How's life treating you? It's crazy to see you in the thread, which is awesome. Y'all celebrating Thanksgiving? Well, how far ahead in the timeline are you? Okay, I'm going to spin this guy around and add a little bit of this color over here. Just kind of slap it on in and blend it in a bit. Oh, this is I don't recall hearing this one before on the albums. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I'm more than anything, I'm having a lot of fun doing this stuff, which is great. And just, you know, trying to build out my world. It's like never wanting to grow up and keep trying to live in some sort of weird fantasy D&D world. Gotcha. Right on. Do you do like traditional Thanksgiving over there? We're gonna be doing a lot of prep work tonight in preparation for tomorrow. So we'll be going to my in-laws and for lunch, and then Becky and her kids and husband will be coming over in the evening for dinner. Just gonna add a little bit of brightness there. The moldy flesh. And bring this stuff up. You still playing music, Greg? Right on. Do they, at the dining facility, do they prepare things pretty well? I will. It's always good to get to see them especially, we seem to, like, this time of year we see them a lot more than the rest of the year. Even with only being like an hour and a half, hour and 15 minutes away from each other. Alright, he's starting to get some cool coloration. I'm gonna spin him around and put some more layers on the back of his head where you can start to see some of the, you can still see some of the brush strokes coming through. And after this, I'll probably jump in and get some of that midnight black color that I love so much that's really like a blue, and throw some shadows in. Start to fade that up. Yeah, no kidding. That cleanup part is a bit of a bitch. But it is so worth it, the cleanup part. And that's like part of the reason we started doing dinner at our house after having lunch at Carrie's parents, is that we always intended to have like a middle of the year Thanksgiving where we cooked, and then it just never happened. And I just really like the act of actually going through, and even though Carrie's pretty much handling it all this year, I really like going through and doing that. Then dip this guy down a little bit just to see how, make sure I'm getting all these parts under here. Thanks. This is like my this part right here is pretty much my studio. Then over on the other side is where I generally do my design work. I'm thinking about merging the two desks together and having it all shifted over there. But yeah, I've got a pretty good space. It's one of the bedrooms in our house, at least for now. I want to get one of those shipping containers and put that in the backyard, and turn that into a studio space, especially one that people could actually come to and visit. Because right now usually it's odd to have folks come over, and especially when the kids are playing and stuff like that. Adding a little more lightness up here. And blend a little more of that moldy flesh color in. You have any plans for coming back stateside anytime in the near future? Alright, I'm going to rinse this brush out. I'm going to grab up some of the... Wow, that light's coming in pretty hot. Is it this one? Nope. Huh. Going to grab some of the midnight blue to start adding a little bit of... Actually, no. Instead of blues, I'm going to throw some browns in here. Start blending some brown up from like the neckline and start putting that in for some of the shadows. So let's see. Pardon me as I reach. Black and brown. Ruddy flesh. That's a good name. Let's go with some ruddy brown and see. Right on. Where in California are you going to be going? Let's go with ruddy flesh on this. See where it takes us. So lighter of the browns, but so maybe it won't get too nasty. Caffeine. Coffee is good no matter what temperature it is. Yep, that ruddy flesh really is kind of a ruddy color. It's not really dark much at all. It's just kind of giving it a little bit of a dirtiness to it. So I'll put a little more of that, and I'll probably take it and match it on the other side just to make sure that I'm keeping things consistent from side to side a little bit. But after that, I think I might come back and get some of that darker brown. This ruddy flesh definitely feels like more of a wash and overlay. Right on. Is there a family out there? Because I think last time we talked, your mom was traveling around, right? Okay, so this guy is... These are kind of my takes on goblins in my fantasy world in Revelo. And this, out of all of them, they primarily live in a valley called the Valley of Despair, which is surrounded by... Oh, awesome. Right on. The Valley of Despair is surrounded by a forest that basically is completely inhabited by undead creatures, so it makes any of the critters that live in the Valley of Despair impossible to escape. Thus the name Valley of Despair. So this guy, of all of them, figured out a way to build a drill that was big enough to tunnel its way out underneath the forest and end up on the northern side of the Forest of the Dead. And so he was well known and respected amongst the Groblynns, and so that's kind of who he is. And he helped establish like lines of trade between some of the other areas of the continent. And yeah, so that's who he is. Wait. Yeah, totally. And let me know if the music's too loud. I had to adjust my video setup a little bit, so the audio's coming in at different areas than it was before. Hey, Noble, what's happening? Hope your day is going well. Oh, your daughter wants to hear the story. Right on. So, this guy is a Groblynn, which is kind of my take on goblins in my fantasy world of Revelo. And all the Groblynns primarily lived in the Valley of Despair. And the Valley of Despair is called that because it's surrounded by a forest that's known as the Forest of the Dead. And that's because it's primarily filled with undead creatures that eat anything that they notice is living that tries to go through it. So it's impossible for the critters that live in the Valley of Despair to get out. So this guy created a drill that lets him escape lets his group of creatures escape the Valley of Despair and go northbound and interact with other creatures and set up lines of commerce between different towns. So that's kind of his story. Damn, Noble. I'm sorry. Do you have somewhere that you can stay? So that's the story that I started coming up with this morning while I was looking at the sculpture of him and thinking about where I was going to go with this guy. I knew that I wanted him to be from the Valley of Despair because I haven't really made any creatures from there yet. So I knew I wanted to do that. Thanks, man. And thanks for listening. I totally appreciate it. Just gonna add some more of this brown in here. Gotcha. Well, good luck with the recruiting process. I hope that goes well. I know when I was in 11th-ish grade, I'd started looking into that a little bit. No, these guys, like this guy's got a jacket on that I'm gonna paint in a little bit. These are they have a smallish village. They have one town in the Valley of Despair, and they've also recently, in the past decade, since they've gotten out of the Valley of Despair, a lot of them cohabitate in the one humanoid city in my world called Merc's Hollow. So they have a group of them there. They're about like 3.5 feet tall-ish, and they're not like mean-spirited or nasty by it. They're like, as far as like most goblins in like D&D lore and stuff, you know, they're usually tricky and follow and believe in are more nasty. These guys are pretty nice and pretty cool. Yeah, the more I make these creatures, the more I just want to. I wish I could go back to high school and just play D&D all the time. Whenever I wasn't at 7-Eleven or we weren't at Big Boy or Denny's. Cool, good. How long will you get to see your daughter in California for? Let's do a little more of this around some of these bubbles. Then I might have to wipe some of it off a little bit. Awesome, that's great. Especially trips like that. I would imagine that the longer you get to be there, the more enjoyable it gets. Hey! Thanks for taking a peek. I'm just kind of blending these colors into some of the recesses. And do a little more down around the Adam's apple. And bring a little bit into these shadows. I think now, like, once I get this down, I'll throw in some of the darker browns as well. And then we'll probably come back with some of the punchier greens to brighten things up once that's all done. Shake all of that water out. Do I want the beak to have a similar coloration? Do I want it to be darker? See what happens when I make it a little bit darker in the brown so the teeth will stand off of it. Song's starting to make me a little worried, like there's some sort of evil creature lurking in the background planning my demise. Probably can barely even see the dark brown coming in right now. Let's bring a little bit of the ruddy flesh into the beak. Ooh. That would be pretty cool. I wonder, with those, I tend to always, like, when I'm doing symbols like that, I tend to prefer to carve them in or sculpt them in while I'm sculpting it, because I feel like my detail brush is not I'm not as good as that. But I could see that. Let me put the base down and see if something like that'll work on it. Ooh, wrong color. Dipped in the wrong brown. And just want to get a lot of this covered real quick and come back in with some of the lighter. And that's gonna happen. Whoa, I almost spilled my coffee. Totally. I like that, and it's crazy because when I first started doing these larger sculptures, I was giving a lot of them tattoos. So that might have to definitely explore that. Let's blend this in. Bring this up just into the brown, smack it around as fast as I can to blend it in. It's totally awesome that you tuned in, Greg. Starting to like the coloration is a little subtle from there we go, maybe not in that light as close to it. It helps a little bit. See if this adjusts anything at all. Yeah, that's actually better. Okay, I'm gonna put some down here. Yes, it's totally awesome. So, let's see. I started customizing toys in like 2008. And then in 2009, 2010, I started doing some bigger pieces. And then somewhere along the line, like 2011 or 12, I took about 3 years off because I was really trying to focus on making my business soar and like my design business really go. So I kind of gave up for a couple of, like 3 years where I wasn't really doing anything. So if you do the math that way, it's 2016, so like 4 or 5 years that I've been sculpting. And I totally started out with like Sculpey and then graduated onto the Magic Sculpt material that I use now. And there's a lot of different other materials out there that I've never even tried, just since all the sculpting stuff's pretty much self-taught. But Greg and I we used to do so much art in our youth. And I've always done a little bit of something between painting and things like that, that it all kind of helps add, everything builds on top of everything else you've learned. Even if it's not a conscious thing, a lot of it's just where you don't even have to think about certain things anymore, and it just kind of how it goes. You just automatically go to certain places while you're sculpting or drawing. Gonna put a little more color on that lower lip. Blend it down a little bit. And so the longest I've spent. So before now, I haven't really spent a lot of time actually keeping track of the time it takes, because most of it I do like before I started work or after work. And now that I'm actually doing like video segments where I keep track of it, it seems to keep a better idea of it. I would say that some of the very first ones where I was still learning the material, it was taking me a little longer to figure things out. I would also like make a mold of certain scales and then pour those out of liquid resin and then make multiples to make patterns. Some of those I spent at least probably like 12 to maybe like 14 to 20 hours on the actual sculpting part itself. But like once the sculpting's done, the painting can come together really fast. I mean, like already we've only been working on this guy for 40 minutes for the painting part, and it's really starting to come together. So, and like some sculpting, I've spent like, I'd have to go back and watch because this one I sculpted in 3 different sculpting sessions, I think. But all of those sculpting sessions were 2-hour sessions, and of those 2 hours, I also spent some time working on a couple other things. So, a lot of the stuff now. Yeah, this one's pretty bad. Let's see. Where did my iTunes go to? There we are. Hang on just a sec. There we go. I have it on random on Midnight Syndicate, and some of it's a little more moody. Some of it has a little too much of that kind of cackling in the background. But they're really nice guys, or at least the one guy Ed that I met as the 2-part team. Usually I have YouTube on like a streaming music where you can put in and request songs, but today I just decided to throw this on in the background. Next time you're here, you'll be able to request some songs. Alright, I wanted to put a little bit of that brown color in around the eye because I think it'll let the eye stand out a little bit. Is it better without all the cackling? Twist this guy around just a little, get a better angle. Get some in there where there's a little bit of where the spray paint didn't catch. And a little of this green. Alright, pulling some of this green, pulling some of that brown into those shadows. There we go. Doesn't look quite as even. I need to put a little more green into this one. Oh, that one startled me. Which is always fun. Alright. Let's throw down some color on the teeth to see where the rest of this guy goes. I think that'll help. And then I'm going to scrape this eye off just a little bit. I'm just taking the back of an X-Acto blade and getting some of the buildup that got on there from when I was sculpting off of it. Sometimes when there's little bits of gunk on there and I have it looking at me and it's not looking quite right, I'll want to come in and clean it up just a little bit. Yeah, they're hidden under there. They'll stand off in just a minute. All right, let me stand up and grab some other colors. We'll grab a yellowed bone at first. Hey, thank you very much for the follow. I hope your day is going well. And thank you for joining us on today's quest. So I grabbed some of this yellowed bone by Reaper Mini paints, and that's going to be a good foundation for these teeth that are down here. Most of their different bone colors have slightly different hues and a little bit different warmth or cold to them. I like this one because it has that warm yellowy color, which is going to help it even stand out a little bit more from the background. Excuse me as I get in close with my old eyes to look at these teeth. And now here's an instance where a lot of times I would switch my brush to one of the round brushes instead of this flat number 4 that I use for almost everything else, just to help make sure I get everything covered in there like I want to. But for now, I think I'm seems like I'm going okay with it. Oh, the dark horrors that are coming out of the stereo. Alright, so that gives us a foundation for the teeth. We'll need to come back and add a little bit more to it because that black spray paint that the base is coated in is definitely absorbing some of that yellowed bone. And I'll want to come in and probably put a little bit of the brown in them as well to help help that. Thank you. Now we'll put them on this side. Oh, the evil. Yeah, okay. I want it a little more epic and a little less. I know, Carrie. I want it a little more epic and a little less horror park amusement park horror. I guess I should have picked specific albums instead of just putting it on random Midnight Syndicate. Oh, hey, Greg. Carrie is my wife. Greg is one of my friends that I went to high school with. You have known me talk about him because I've gone and met him at the airport a couple of times. He's tuning in from Germany. And Carrie's probably getting in surround because she's probably hearing it go under the doors out to the living room and hearing it out there and hearing it on her computer. I got a little bit of green speck on the beak that I'm just trying to wipe off a little bit. Alright, here, let's turn this one off. See, when I'm not wearing the gloves and doing the sculpting, it's easier to go in and touch my keyboard, so that's totally cool. So let's see. Boom. Turn that one down. Stand by for just a second. We'll put on... we'll turn on the music. It'll just take a second to turn on the features. Boom. Song is on. Boom. And now we'll turn this on. I might have to adjust the volume a little bit. We'll see. And I need to turn off that... There we go. Alright. So music should start streaming in just a second. Hopefully that didn't break anything. And there's also a chance that Carrie jumped in just for a second to say the music was ridiculous and popped back off. She's got both our kids hanging out today since Wyatt's out of school all week. And, alright, there we go. Now there's some dismemberment plan. And if you want to request any music, you can do ! Song request. And then type the name of the song and then the name of the band. Alright. I think he's starting to look okay there. I want to start laying down the foundation on the jacket. But before I do that, I'm going to put some color into earrings because I think I'm going to bring that color somewhere else into the piece. So I'm going to stand up and grab some copper. No, I'll do silver. I always lean towards silver. You really regret it? You like the other stuff better than the dismemberment plan? Alright, I'm going to grab some of the silver and just brush that in on the earrings. This is a like gunmetal color that can just be found at any hobby shop used for models. It's nice I can hear the people blowing their leaves next door, which means you guys can probably hear it as well. Hopefully it's not too bad. Excellent. Now that I'm putting this silverish down, I think the copper would have stood out a little bit more, but we'll see. And all right, now I'm going to throw some of this into the, I'm going to take that same bronzish color and put it in the buttons of his shirt, just so it's not the only, or not bronzish, silverish color up here. Put it in down in the buttons. And make sure I get it around the side of the buttons. Hoping that that all of my monsters will soon start to get turned into playable monsters for 5th edition D&D as well as Pathfinder. Currently talking to one of my friends about possibly doing that, which would be pretty rad to have these show up in other folks' campaigns. Yes! You probably missed Greg say hello, and might have missed me talking about being a friend from the olden days. And he actually came down when we were living in Peachtree City and visited. I think it'll end up being blue, but I wanted it kind of leathery. And making sure I got all the colors of the buttons in there. All right. Do something. All right. Yeah, let's start adding some color to that jacket. It'll really make him come to life. This guy's already getting a lot of character. Let's see. The blue that I want. Let's go with a, pardon me as I reach, denim blue. No, I don't want him to wear a jean jacket. Ultramarine shadow. No. Gunmetal blue. Yes. Let's make it a gunmetal blue. Let's give it a little bit of a sheen to it, a little bit of a sparkle, and then maybe mix in some of that mint green that I put on my palette that I haven't used yet. Maybe, maybe not. Let's see. We will drop a little of this in. Okay, so this color here is pretty dark, so it's going to be hard to see, but I definitely already see that it's got that metallic in it. Because of that, because I've got, not the yellow bone, because I've got this moldy skin squirted down on my palette. All you have to do is type in ! Misfits, space, whatever song you want, and then the word Misfits, and it should show up. I've got some Misfits in the playlist, but it's just kind of on random right now. And just gonna keep blending this down. So I think this will start to bring some color into it. It's looking a little purple from what the camera's doing, but I think it's picking up red for some reason. Let's see. Let's see if my hand will adjust it at all. Sometimes doing that will adjust the color. It's a little bit better. And I'm just gonna keep working this color in because I think that'll go well. And I think I'll take and do the collar part that's got a little bit of a line crease to it. I'll do that in a slightly different color. And that little symbol down jammed into the jacket is my stamp. It's kind of like my logo stamp. Let's see. I'm going to pull this away, look at that for a second. See if that works. All right, I just added, I turned into a Martian. Will probably pop up after this next song that's on there. And add a little more of this color in. Or it will totally break MooBot, and just no audio will come out at all. Well, I like this bluish color. Almost has like a, I don't know what sort of feel it has, but I'm digging it. Especially blended in with that moldy flesh, it's got some interest to it. Hello, computer. Hello, did I break you? There we go. Is that kind of what you were thinking, Greg? Especially with that alien green color going on this guy. All right, let's see how this blends up along the back. Then we'll blend it, bring some color into the collar. Excellent. Sorry, now I'm shaking my leg and it's making things wobble, probably the camera wobble and stuff as well. All right, I'm going to do something experimental just a little bit. These buttons that are on here are little pieces that I got at a hobby store that since they're spray painted black, they kind of have like a pearlescent color on them. I'm going to see if I scrape away if the pearlescent will show up. If it does, then I'll just scrape it away and I won't even paint that area. But I may do the rest of that scraping later once this paint sets up, so I'm not risking dropping little flakes of this into it. All right, I think that's going to work out. It's going to pull that pearlescent in just fine. As long as I don't scratch it up too much. Okay. I'll come back and I'll do that in a little bit. For now, I need to bring the collar of the shirt out. So I think, because I wanted this to almost feel like he was wearing like a regal type jacket for their creatures, since he's so well regarded. I'm going to go ahead and do the liner part in that gunmetal color, and then we may come back and do some other colors on top of it, but that'll give it a good shiny base. Oh, got a little bit down in that crevasse. I'll clean that up in just a minute. Now as I get to the finer details and getting closer to having all the bases down on all this, I want to try and be a little more careful, not like earlier in the piece where I was just smacking my brush around and hitting pretty much everywhere on the skin of this creature. Just kind of bring a slightly wet brush in here to where this crease is, where I got a little bit of the silver, and just pull that out. Gonna just tilt this guy up to make sure I'm getting this okay. And I'm gonna bring it all the way along this seam of the jacket. Gonna need a little more of that color on my palette as well. And I'll just there with that. Then I'll have to figure out what color we're gonna do with his shirt. Yep. This paint's got a little bit of a slug going on it. Yuck. Alright, gonna do a little more of this gunmetal color. Gonna get it in around the edge. And bring it all the way down. So, this is random, Greg. Do you know Carrie Donovan moved to Germany a little while back? I don't know if it's anywhere near you. Gotta tilt this guy around, just twist him a bit to make sure I'm getting inside here. Inside up there. Alright. Now I'm gonna stand up and get a little up on the top. This you can definitely see some of the black shining through, so I'm gonna have to come back and touch it up a bit. Sorry about my arm being in the picture. I don't know what city. I know that she got married to somebody that's from over there and moved over. I'd have to check Facebook to see if I knew, or see if I could figure it out. I'm terrible with geography. Hey, Sarah's Cave, thank you for the follow. Hope your Wednesday is going well. Making a fair amount of progress on this guy today. Oh, I got that booger of that paint on my brush. That's not cool. Alright, I'm going to tilt this guy up again to get a little bit closer look so I can make sure I'm getting this part of the collar down well. And then keep on painting it on. And just bring it all the way down. I'm going to need some more of this gunmetal color again before we are complete with this. Ooh, I think 2 followers so far. I think that might put me up to 96 or 98 followers. Getting real close to 100. I should probably figure out some sort of giveaway to do as my numbers start to increase. Maybe one of my pocket monsters. Oh. I'll figure that out before Saturday's stream. Today's Wednesday, yes. Next stream after today will be a stream on Saturday. Normally I sculpt on Saturdays, but I'm not sure what I'll be doing. Got to get a lot of stuff together for some small holiday shows that are coming up, one on the 3rd and one on the 10th. Got a lot of small things that need to be painted between now and then. Probably need to pour a bunch of stuff out of resin. Alright, I've got that base of silver down. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more. Just along here, just to thicken it up a little bit. little more in here just to make sure it's nice and thick, opaque. All right, a little bit up top. All right, I like the blue and the silver color this guy's getting. Now it's time to figure out that shirt color he's got on underneath. Then we'll come in and start bringing some more shadows up into the face and the skin, bring some more into the beak. Think about those possible designs worked into the beak. Okay. Color for the shirt, color for the shirt. I want it to be a little more subtle than the rest. Actually, I want to bring some of this bluish in here into the crease where it's a little dirtier than I'd like, or not as clean of a line. Of course, then I mess that one up just a little bit. And bring that in just a little bit more. Okay, that's cleaner. All right, I know. I'm gonna bring in that mint green color that I haven't brought in anywhere else that I kind of wanted to. We'll see if it works. If it doesn't work, we'll paint over it and put something else on. There's something about this color that I just gravitate towards, and I don't know why, because it's not like the color that I would normally enjoy. Ah, faded pink would have been good, but damn. So, since I don't think you've probably watched a whole lot of the Twitch, like, the chat for me is stupid delayed, and that's just kind of how it works. So, I need to think about taking a serious pause, and then it's too late at that point. I think this will work, especially if I add some browns to it into the shadows once I get the base down. And I put some textures into this shirt when I was first sculpting it down, so those are starting to show through a little bit as I'm laying down some brushwork. Getting a little bit on the button, that's okay. I can always go back in and put a little more of the gunmetal color on top of the buttons. I'm going and make sure I got the top covered. Put a little more precision, a little more attention to the detail up there. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and bring a little bit more of this color in just to brighten it up in certain areas. I mean, it's already fading. You can see where it's already starting to fade into the black. So the idea is that this guy is already dead. He was killed by one of the gray squirrels, which inhabit the mountain range around where this guy dug the tunnel through to help his fellow Groblyns get out from the Valley of Despair. So I'll need to carve out of wood a wooden plaque for this guy to be mounted to. But I hadn't done that before today's painting session, so normally I'll get them, then I'll mount them to the wooden plaque before painting them, just so I can see what they look like on there. But I was ready to get this guy painted. I'm going to put some of this brown into this teal color and just kind of blend it in and see how it goes. I felt like it needed to have a little more natural coloration going to it. Also maybe a little more traveled. It's one thing for like a leathery surface to still retain color pretty well. When you have like a bright fabric and you're a traveler, I think it should be a little bit beaten up. Unless you're in some sort of carriage and somebody's driving you around, but this guy walks on his short little legs. Yeah, it's definitely helping out. Blend this brown in. It's almost starting to look a little more antique-y. Beating this brush up pretty bad. And we'll put a little bit along the top as well, where the shadows are. Excuse me. I have a feeling most of the paint on this guy is going to be done by the time today's stream is done. Might even get to where I'm painting on some of these little pocket monster eyes that I sculpted this morning. Gonna rinse out this brush. I just put a little bit of brown down on the line where the shirt meets the skin, but I want to get all the moisture out so that I can then pull this brown down and allow for it to blend a little bit more. There we go. All right, I'm gonna add just a little bit more around the button areas. Ooh, and I guess I need to put some color. Oh, that was a little too much. Pull that down with my finger. I need to put some color into the thread that's on top of the buttons. All right. Gonna put some of that minty color, just a little bit, on top of these threads that I put in, sewing the buttons on. There we go. All right. Now that that part's on there, I'm gonna throw some, actually, let's go ahead and scrape this a little bit and see if I can get some more of this off of here. So I'm just taking the back side of an X-Acto blade and trying to scrape this button down. Ooh, wonder if, see if this tool would work. This is one of my sculpting tools. It almost looks like a dental pick. It's got a little curve to it. Let's see. Oh yeah, that's gonna work so much better than I think. Just start pulling that paint off of there. Oh, and these will be nice little details that'll help add a lot of character to this guy. Oh, the flourishes that are on his jacket. The life he has led. Had led. And another scrapey, scrapey, scrape. Almost. And once I get this scraped pretty thoroughly, then I'll take a paintbrush to it with some water and just wipe it down and see how it did. As long as it gets most of it, it's okay to have some little specks of the paint on there. So it doesn't have to be completely clean. He is a seasoned traveler. Gonna do the same on all four of these before I add more shadows to the rest of this guy. But these were just little, like, these were on super clearance at the local hobby store, and there's like a set of like 24 of them or something. So I can just add these to random sculptures. Right on. And add little embellishments, which are nice to have. It's nice to have different pieces when you're sculpting to add textures and elements that would be more challenging to sculpt. But once it's in the finished form, it actually looks like it belongs. Again, with the paintbrush to try and get some of that off. This gives me a better idea of like, okay, there's a little too much around here. I'm going to scrape a little more of it off here. Totally feels like I'm a dentist. I guess it's important that I paid attention to what the dentist was doing to me as I'd have teeth repaired. I was always curious about how they were making that stuff, using the tools and how it was all working. Not really freaked out, just curious. Alright. That's pretty good. I'm going to spin this guy around. We'll do the other buttons. Oop. Yeah, there's a little bit here I want to do a little more. And, yep, there we go. Let's do this side. And once this is all done, we'll add some shadows, some more highlights. This guy's going to be done before the end of the day, or before the end of the stream at 2. I'm certain of it. Then all I'll have to do is make the plaque for him to mount to. I need to come up with some other designs for the plaques. I've used a handful of designs that I've come up with, and I've cut those out a couple of different times for each one, and it's time to design some more on the computer and then map them out. And I cut each one with a jigsaw out of reclaimed hardwoods that are found locally sourced hardwoods around the area. So I also need to get some more wood, which would be good to have. Kind of scrape. Almost done with this button. Oh, I was wrong. Look at this side. This side's all plaqued up. I'm just going to scrape it down just a little bit more. And almost there. Alright, I'm going to brush that off, see how much more I want to take off that button. There's still a significant amount that I want to take off. Let's turn it. And a little bit more. Sometimes cleanup takes longer than actually doing the painting part. And almost there. Alright, let's move on to the next one. Keep it in mind. And now this spray paint's only been on here for 2 days, so it hasn't completely set in. Like, I don't know what it would be like if I was trying to scrape this like 2 months after I put it on. Also, I'm not exactly sure what these little embellishments are made out of. I'd imagine it's just some sort of iridescent plastic. Almost there with this one. And almost there. Come on. Let's get this guy done. I'm ready to put some more shadows on him. And another little scrapety scrape. Almost there. Let's see how much I've got left. Okay, my thumb's definitely not doing it. Guess it's probably because I don't have much in the way of thumbnails. Okay. I think that's good and clean enough. It makes them look a little bit worn. I like the shine that's on them. They're glistening in the overhead lights. Let's put some darker browns into the shadows coming up around the base of the neck. Let's see where it takes us. I'm just going to put a little in and dry brush and dry brush and dry brush and see what happens. Yeah, he's starting to get a little more roughed up there. I'm not going to put a whole lot of this brown in all over because I don't want to to get too, I don't want it to be too dark. A little bit around the base of the neck, maybe a little bit under these bubbly things that come off of his face. Maybe a little just around here. And come on a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to end up putting in more than I just said I was going to. Let's bring that in here. And a little bit in here. Push, push, push. Okay, here's the thing. I'm now just doing some hard dry brushing. I'm going to rinse this brush off pretty good. I want to salvage this brush as much as possible. I don't want to beat it up too much. Since I've already got this one pretty well destroyed, let's do some dry brushing with this guy. It's the exact same brush, just a little more worn, because I've used it on a couple of bigger sculptures, so it's already seen its fair share of work. And I'm just gonna, here, let's see. I'm just putting down some of this darker brown and pushing it around, dry brushing it up, blending it in. It's just gonna add, having these layers of semi-translucent on there, it's just gonna give it a lot more depth to the creature. Gonna have to stand up and do some up top. Drink another little bit of my coffee, then move this stuff out of the way. All right, turn it around this way so you guys can see the back of his head maybe a little bit. Bring some of this in, up around the back of the ear. Just blend and blend and blend. And just keep pressing down on the brush, beating the hell out of it, but just making sure that that brown doesn't look like a big stroke of brown. It looks like it's worn in and fades all the way in. You might think there's no paint on that brush, but somehow it still has a little bit of pigment in it, and it keeps on pushing. So when I go to get paint, then I dip down just to get one edge, knowing that this brush is already super fanned out, and the bristles are going every which way. And then just keep pushing, and if you see where, wow, there's like a serious line there, you just got to get a little bit more and blend back on top of it to try and work it out. All right, I'm going to bring some in around the top, around the brow, not a whole lot, but enough that you can kind of see parts of it. All right. Get a little more of this brown, get it down around the back. Ooh, that was too much. Let's see, what can I do? What can I do? Let's bring some up here. Let's rinse our brush out. It's all right. Sometimes getting a little too much on is not a big deal. We just got to squeeze all that moisture out of the brush and push this stuff around. Let's push it around before it starts to dry up, and we will get it worked in, and it will work out just fine. Bring some up into here. Bring it up around here. Gonna have to work some of this out right up here because it was a little too much and too wet. There we go. That's how it works. He's already starting to look more refined. The color is starting to show more complexity to it. All right, now that that's happening, I'm going to bring in some highlight color. Well, actually, let's put a little more color into the teeth. The teeth need some more color. I think the beak needs a little more color. Then I think I want to bring in some a totally different, brighter highlight to make little bits stand off even more. Okay. I'm going to get just a little bit of that brown and blend that up into here and just add a little bit so it's not so stark, so the teeth aren't so stark in color. Ooh, that was too much. Squeeze out that water again, and now smack that color off of there. All right, that's enough that it looks like it's fading in a little bit. I'm gonna rinse out the brush, squeeze more out of that. I'm gonna dip just a little bit of this muddy flesh and put a little bit on the tip of the beak and just kind of blend that in just a little bit. Now I want to try and get just a little more of the dark brown inside the lip, inside this front lip, because it looks like there's too severe of a line and it doesn't look like it's blended. So I'm going to blend that out just a little bit so it looks a little more natural. And I'm going to grab a little bit more. There's not a lot there, but just want those creases in the beak to stand out just a little bit more. Thanks, man. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I hope to see you again. I look forward to catching up. I hope you and the family have a great Thanksgiving. And yeah, it's good to see you. All right, so now I'm going to grab this bluish white. Thank you. Good night. Good night, Katie. I'm shaking up this light blue. It's called maggot white. Those nasty little fly larvae. I'm going to take that and put some highlights in up around the top up here. Also on the other side. Thank you. Going to take just a little bit of that on my palette. Going to push the water out of my brush as much as possible. Take just a little bit and bring some in up here. And then just shake it in. Do the same thing down here. Which one do you... I'm going to do a little bit down here as well, just to give it some extra highlights. Do a little bit up on the mohawk. Okay, that was a little more than I intended, but that's okay. A little bit up on the tip of this here ear. Maybe even a little right here. Just because. Spin that guy around. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. And down around the base. And up on the tip of this here ear. And just keep bringing this color in. Blend, blend, blend. Use your thumb every now and again if it's not blending the way you want it to. It's alright to put your thumbs on things. So far, I like how this guy's looking. He's feeling pretty lifelike. Especially, the colors aren't as true as they should be. Let me see if I can grab a piece of white board. Let's see if this helps with the white at all. See if it helps balance the color out. Low camera. I think that gives it a slightly truer color. I don't know. Colors are pretty close. Except it's not as bright and punchy as it should be for some of the greens and some of the blues. That's okay. All right. I really think he's coming together pretty well. I'm going to add just a little bit more, a few more details in color, a few more shadows, and I think this guy's going to be done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand up and grab my Nightmare Black. Did I grab the right one? Yeah, Nightmare Black. This one's about empty. Luckily, I have a backup reserve of Nightmare Black, as you always should. For this one, I'm going to grab my number 2 round Trekell brush. put just a little dip onto my palette. I'm going to go in and just put a couple more shadows in. I'm going to do some stuff around the eyes where I wanted it to have a little more darkness. Bring some down around here. I'm going to bring some water in to help kind of blend it a little bit. Whoa, that one went a little crazy. Didn't mean for that to happen. That's okay. As Bob Ross would say, that was one of those happy little accidents. Gonna water this down a little bit and just bring some in here. Not a lot, just a little every now and then. Just add another bit of color. Has a different layer of dimension to it. Have to excuse me, I think one of my cats is trying to get in the room. Alright. I can hear Beetlejuice scratching at the door. Do not walk on my computer, Beetlejuice. There you go. There you go. Come on over. Just don't walk on the computer. I'll put a little bit of the blue into the ear. Come here, Beetlejuice. I'll put a little bit of this dark under here. Okay, I don't need this teeny brush now. I need a little different one. You cannot get the water out of my mixing bowl, my mixing water. I'm just gonna bring some of this blue in here, just a little, just a scotch. And bring a little bit into this eye. And then a little more up here. And, all right, skip. Bow now, 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 now. All right, I'm just blending some of this blue in. We'll get some water in here, completely blend it around. Oh yes, we'll put a little bit down in the beak. This is starting to really feel a lot more complete. And just going to keep adding a few more little bits of detail to this guy. He is really almost done. With the exception of, like, after he's done, I'll tape off his eyes. I'll spray him down with a matte varnish. And then from there, I'll take the paint off the eyes. Then I'll clean the eyes off, scrape them down, and rub them with alcohol. Try and get them as clean as I can. Then I'll have to make the plaque to mount them on. Cool if I had that done in the next couple days. Got a couple other things I've got to spray down that haven't been sprayed yet, so they can be ready to go with me on my December 3rd adventure to the Drawn In Quarterly at Red Brick Brewery in Atlanta, and then to the ICE Indie Craft Experience in Chattanooga on December the 10th. Let's see, what I'm doing now is I'm just taking my knife and I'm scraping this down a little bit just to get some of the buildup off the eye, so it's a little bit cleaner. Doesn't have to be perfect right now, but I like having it at least a little bit cleaner. Looking at me. Okay, wiping it down a little bit more. There we go. Still going to get even cleaner before we're done, but that's good enough for now. Whoa, pulling some of that blue up into the eye. Let's leave that be. Alright, all in all, I'm pretty happy with this guy. I'll need to take a step away, look at him for a couple days, make sure there isn't more that I want to add to him. I like the color of his jacket pretty well. Definitely feels a little more regal. Yep. Okay. I'm pretty good with that guy. So now we've got like 25 minutes left in today's stream. That being said, this morning I've got, let's see, 1, 2. I'll show these to you in a second. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 eyeballs that I need to paint. So let's jam on that. What's going to happen though, I'm going to move this guy a little bit, and then I'm going to have to take this camera and angle it down. So if anybody's watching right now, I apologize in advance for the earthquake that's about to happen, because the camera angle is going to shift a little bit. I may have to adjust things a bit, but it shouldn't take very long for this to happen. So here we go. Alright, that wasn't too bad. Turn this guy so he's kind of in this camera a little bit. As long as my face can still be seen a little bit and these can be painted on. Alright. Color adjustments acting a little funky. Let's see if moving this guy helps. Nope, that didn't seem to do a damn thing. Thank you, General Lukey. Sorry that if you just tuned in, let me tilt it back up to him so you can see him in his raw entirety. I was pretty happy with how the colors were turning out. Now, the colors that you're seeing on screen are pretty muted compared to what it is. The color correction that's happening on this this camera is not right. But I think he's turning out pretty good, so I was going to move on. Sorry for the tilt again. I'm going to start painting on these guys. These are little pocket monsters. They're little, like, things that you can just take away and keep to watch over watch over the stuff that you own. I take these to small conventions and stuff that I do. So since I've got a couple festivals coming up, or little art show things, I wanted to make a handful of new pieces. So these I just do some quick brushing over top of them to start letting some colors come in and just get these ready for those shows. Each one is the idea that there's some sort of monster trapped inside of it. How are you doing today, General Lukey? And am I pronouncing that right? And let's see, do I want to do another silver one? I'll do one more. I'll do this guy in silver. So I sculpted these this morning. Usually I let Magic Sculpt dry a little bit longer than that, but they feel like they're pretty set up, and since I'm not pressing down hard at all with the brushes, I think they should be just fine. I'll do those, and then I'll take a little bit of this very light color and blend that in just a little bit. Ooh, hair mixing in there. Just make this feel like some sort of silvery creature. Excellent, very good. I don't want to mispronounce any names if I can avoid it. Are you stateside? If so, are you having to do any Thanksgiving preparations today? Alright, I got a bunch of paint on that eye. Hey Adriana, how are you doing today? Okay, I'm just going to come in and wipe off some of that paint that I just got on the glass. This that I can scrape off once it's all dry, but I wanted to go ahead since it's still wet. What do you need help with? Thank you very much. There, like a lot of people that come to like conventions and stuff that like my bigger sculptures can't afford them, so I try to make some other dimensional pieces that are at a cheaper, like a lower price point that they can actually walk away with something. Oh, right on. How's your day going? Guess you're pretty far. What are you? 4 hours ahead of the East Coast here. Yeah, drawing pre-existing cartoon characters isn't really something that I'm really great at. I tend to draw more fantasy creatures and monsters that come up out of my head, because if I mess something up, nobody can tell me it's wrong because I made it up myself. There's got to be some sort of tutorial on like YouTube, though, of somebody showing how to draw Homer Simpson. And why do you need to have it done by today? Got a little more on this eye again, so I'll just get a little water on my brush and wipe it off. And like once these are sculpted and they have the eyes in them, they really only take 1 or 2 coats of paint, little paint. Oh, right on. Yeah, so that is 5 hours ahead of me. One of my wife's best friend lives just outside of London, and they seem to usually whenever they catch each other online, it's usually at the very beginning of our day. No, sorry, I'm not really doing any drawing at the moment. I'm just I'm painting these pieces to get ready for a couple of shows. Thank you for the follow. I really appreciate it. I'm just don't even have any of my drawing tools handy. I'm gonna do one more in that same color to start out. Whoa. That song's significantly louder than the previous one. And then I'm just going to keep bringing this in. I would imagine, like with anything else that I would draw if I was drawing a Simpsons character, I'd probably start by drawing out circles in the shapes of the head and the body to get the base proportions right with the illustration style that is The Simpsons. Or I'd look at a point of reference that's online of an existing picture of him. This is the guy who bought the GTX 1080. I don't understand, Milk Carton. How are you doing today? All right, I'm gonna put a little more of this light blue on top of it. Thank you very much, Noble. Hey, while you were gone, Noble, I'm gonna pardon me, everybody. The camera's about to get shaky for a second. This is how he turned out, and the colors are a little bit off when I move the camera up like this. But that's pretty much how that guy turned out with the painting today. Twist him around a little bit. Ah! Alright, now I'm going to aim this back down at the eyeballs. Alright, there we go. Thanks, I really appreciate it. I'm sorry that you're having a hard time at the moment. I hope that if you're planning on going into the Air Force, I hope those were in your plans before the recent things that have happened in your life. I know years and years ago when I was first trying to decide what I wanted to do with my life in high school, I had courted the idea of joining the Air Force, mainly because I couldn't really afford college at the time, and I thought that was the easiest way for me. And then I ended up not doing it and just went to art school and just ended up with a ton of debt. What are you talking about ignoring you, Adriana? My thing is not drawing Simpsons characters. I don't really draw other people's stuff. I tend to just make my own creations. You can take a look at some of my sketches on like my Instagram feed, and you'll see that I don't really. All I make is my own stuff. Right on. Well, if that's been your plan all along, I think that's awesome. And I hope that you can you have shelter and people that care about you between now and when you actually enlist. There's a little bit of magic sculpt that came through on this piece that I'm just going to scrape off a little bit. Alright, so now I've got these 4 that are pretty much done. These little guys don't take very long at all. So I'm going to do the last 4, and then I'll show you some of the ones that are already done, that are set. And we'll, Noble, will you at least get to stay with some folks, the folks that you're staying with for Thanksgiving? So, gotcha. I totally understand. Well, I don't totally understand. I understand what you're saying, and I'm sorry for that. I'm going to do some of this gunmetal blue on this guy. And put a little... So this color is so dark, but it's got like shiny iridescent quality because it's got gunmetal and this blue mixed into it. When you're up close on it, it's got some really nice, it's got nice color to it. And I think once I blend some of this lighter highlight color into it. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize I was off camera. All right. And just gonna wipe away some of the excess, blend it down. And so all of these eyes are eyes that I made prior to the stream. I actually made the eyes, and on the computer I designed them in Illustrator and Photoshop and printed them out and mounted them to the back of these glass cap-ons so that I could sculpt, so that I could make these little pocket monsters. Gonna blend just a little more of this gunmetal blue into here because it has too hard of a break there in the color and isn't a nice gentle blend. Usually when I'm painting these eyes, I'll usually do like 2 of the same color at a time. Awesome, very good. Well, hopefully, not now, but hopefully later in life, there will be ways that whatever's happening at home can be reconciled. And that dark gunmetal color, I'm going to add a little more of this bright color to this one. So it's really hard to see how the highlights on this down there. For some reason the color just does not want to grab it, and now it doesn't want to focus. Focus! Focus! Nope. Really, these little guys just need like 2 colors, and then they can just jump on to the next one. Baby. Alright, we are almost done with these 2. These I'm going to do, we'll do the alien green, the alien flesh color, just because it's such a good name. Alright, squeeze out all the excess water, since I just added another color. See how this green looks with this kind of albino-y type eye. That's what I was thinking of when I made this eye. There's like in taxidermy catalogs, you can order like albino deer eyes and albino raccoon eyes. It's kind of what I was going for with that one. Oh, I totally see that. Like, that's like how all like the taxidermy glass bird eyes look. They have that like solid black circle in the center, then another like brighter color, then another brighter color around the ring. I've not really done much with animals with feathers. Honestly, I'm a little intimidated by the idea of trying to sculpt anything with feathers. But one day it'll happen. Better, I'll figure out how to incorporate real feathers into things. All right, now I'm going to let's add some darkness to this. And just a little bit. Bring this around just a little. Gonna bring some more of that green in, I think, now that I'm blending it in with this blue, because it's getting too blended. Yeah, that's looking super messy. That's okay. I'll clean that up. It will all look good once it's done. Wipe down the excess. Brushy away. Do the same thing over here. All right. Squeeze out that extra. And bring some highlights back in. And a little more. And I'm going to have to clean up the glass again because I'm making a flippin' mess with this one. Alright, go through, clean that up. Nice when it's still wet on this glass, you can just wipe it away real easy. Alright, I think that's all I'm going to get to today. Normally I have like 8 minutes left, but I feel like I made some good progress on my my Groblynn character on these eyes. My next scheduled stream will be Saturday night from 9:30 to 11:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't know exactly what I'm going to do on that stream yet. I may be doing some more painting. It depends on if I need to spray paint a bunch of little magnets and get those prepped and ready to go. Actually, I've got 7 minutes. I can paint a magnet. Stand by. Alright, I am going to paint a little bit more, but Saturday will probably be more painting. Normally I like to sculpt on Saturday nights, but because I've got a lot of little things that I need to get done, it'll probably be more painting till I get caught up on the little things that I need to do. And then I'll be back to sculpting. And once I get through these 2 shows for the beginning of the year, or for the beginning of December, I'm going to start doing some bigger sculpture pieces. I haven't done any like really decent sized sculptures yet on Twitch, so I'm going to do some that are going to be a little more challenging for me to have the camera catch the way I want it to, but I'll figure that out. So these guys, I have a handful of different little sculpts that I've done that I then made a silicone mold and then cast these out of resin so that I could make little magnets. I put magnets in the back while I'm pouring the liquid resin into them. And it's a nice little takeaway for the art shows that I do, or the festivals and stuff that I do. Something that's not too expensive. Oh, so like, this is just like a weird pig bat-like creature that I sculpted. It was just something that I was goofing around with. And this guy was just a little weird face. I haven't really come up with any sort of story or anything about what these guys are. I was just experimenting with monster clay because I had never used it before, so I was just freeform sculpting and seeing where it would take me. And so I'm going to bring some of this color into this guy. But you can see the white on the back, that's liquid resin. When you pour the two chemicals together, over 10 minutes they start to heat up and they turn into like a really hard plastic. And what colors do I have? Almost everything on my palette is pretty dry. So let's go ahead and add just a little bit here. And I'm going to have to check my email once we're done in here, see if anything has come through from any work stuff. Talk to my business partner, see if we're working a full day today or if we're going to cut out early. So that would be nice to be done with my work day once I'm done painting. Wanted to give it some more like some bone color into the horn here, so I thought I'd go ahead and bring that up into the ears as well. This place to be. All right. Let's go ahead and bring that into the nose as well. Then he's going to need some color in the eyes. I know you do, Carrie. I know you do. I'll check with Russ and see. I also have to see if anything crazy has come through the emails. Because, you know, some clients are like, oh my gosh, I need it right now. Which could very easily happen. Ooh, this brush is beaten up. It's hard to get into these little detail spots. Oh, pull him back into screen. Let's get some of this on this brush. Let's get these eyes done. And just putting a little silver on those eyes. I'm sure I will be helping with the Brussels sprouts before long. That guy needs a little bit more. Let's give him some gunmetal blue into the darkness of his eyes. Or not into his eyes, into the darkness of his nose. Get this brush. Whoa. All right. That guy is pretty all right. Right on. The wisdom of the owls is good. One of my friends he had a gallery in Atlanta, and the logo was essentially like two owl eyes. He did a ton of owls for a long time. Add some of this blue. Let's get some more of this bone color. Hey, Mystic, what's happening? You're coming in right at the very last minute. I've got like a minute left. I'm just painting some little odds and ends right now. I'm going to tilt the camera up so you can see what the majority of this stream was about. The majority... Whoa, hang on, that camera's going a little faster than I want it to. The majority was painting this guy right here. Turn him this way a little bit. Oh, that's not a good angle. Let's turn him back this way. Excellent. Glad to hear that you're making turkey hats. Thank you very much, Mystic. I really appreciate it. It was a fun painting day. So now I was just doing some little bits and pieces before calling it quits, and then hopefully going to be calling it a day with the day job after that. We'll see. And blending this thing in. All right. He is almost there. And these little magnets are just there. I don't usually spend a whole lot of time on them. Just make them kind of quick. How many turkey hats are you making, Mystic? Gonna do the eyes on this guy, then I'm gonna shut it down. I'll be back streaming Saturday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard. Not sure exactly what I'll be doing yet, but probably some more painting of little guys. Making turkey, that's okay. I totally read that wrong. I read that you were making turkey hats. We will be brining our turkey soon. And then tomorrow after we pull it out of the brine, putting a herbed butter under the skin, possibly working some bacon under the skin. That's what we usually do, but we'll see. And then making some extra sides and things like that. Well, for everybody that's tuned in today, thank you very much, and thanks for the chat. Noble, I hope your evening and your Thanksgiving go well. Mystic, thank you for jumping in. I appreciate it. I hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving that's stateside. Everybody that is in a different country, I hope your Thursday is filled with awesome. Thank you for joining me on my quest, and I will see you all again soon. Thanks, guys.